So I'm here at the Black Lives Matter rally here in Twisp, Washington on June 20th, 2020. I'd like to just kind of open up a discussion about, well, you said you didn't mind names?
No, I'm Mike Sarratt, and I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. I enlisted right after the Kennedy assassination. I was a college student at the time, and my family has a long history of military service going back to the Revolutionary War, so that was my response to what I thought was an attack on our nation. And I did 6 years in the United States Navy right through the Civil Rights era and the Vietnam War and the anti-war movement era. I got my honorable discharge in 1970 and immediately trained. The Kent State massacre happened. I was in college on my GI Bill, feeling like I didn't fit into my own society very well anymore anyway. And when the Kent State assassinations took place, the student protesters were gunned down by the National Guard. That was a bridge too far, and I immediately joined the Vietnam Veterans Against the War. And I've been basically an anti-war activist since that spring of 1970. So I've had 50 years in the anti-war resistance.
So, Mike, can you speak to why you're here today? Let's. I really appreciate hearing your history, and I honor that. And now let's come up to the current times. Why are you? I noticed you had a flag that says Veterans for Peace, and you were in this recent rally here on the side of the highway. So why are you here today?
Well, it's an intersectionality event for me because the Black Lives Matter is a direct outgrowth, of course, of the systematic destruction of black people by the police, and almost all the police in this country have come out of the military. So for me, there's a direct connection. The military has the effect of sort of separating those that are really militaristic from those that are really, in my view, the real patriots that are trying to bring peace to the world. Being idealistic about our role of the military as being peacemaking or peacekeeping, sort of like the world's policeman, I guess you'd say. But I was disabused of those notions really early, and I abandoned the whole idea. But there's still a direct line between military service, police service, the diversion of government money when 57 cents out of every dollar goes to the military, and the police are militarized with all that military surplus equipment, and it just goes around and around in a circle. And we've got to break that circle. We've got to break that, not just for black people, but for all of us.
Do you have any thoughts on how to start doing that?
Well, yes, I do. Here's another direct connection, in my opinion. I just, as you may or may not know, I just spent the last 3 years as chairman of the local Democratic Party here. I was moved to do that after Trump was elected, because I could see that our nation was in for some heavy sledding. And when you've sworn an oath to defend your nation, that doesn't have a time limit on it. So I spent the last 3 years trying to organize the political resistance to the Trump administration. And I think we're headed for a really rough election this fall. There's going to be all kinds of shenanigans, voter suppression. It's getting some mudslinging campaign already. It's real gutterball stuff. And whichever way the election goes, and I very, very strongly hope that it goes for the Democratic Party to get those that criminal, it really is a criminal and a criminal enterprise out of the White House and out of our government. But there's a problem there that's going to be intensely difficult to solve. Between November 3rd and January 21st, he's still going to be walking around with the nuclear go codes. He's still going to be the commander-in-chief of the military. So the real decider is going to be which way the military goes on this thing. And I was very, very pleased to see General Milley apologizing when he walked over on the wrong side of history with the president when they cleared Lafayette Park. And then once that code of silence was broken, the top military leadership in retirement of both the Navy and the U.S. Army came out very strongly against the president's actions, which is an indicator of if the top military leadership won't cooperate, he's going to have a real hard time establishing a military-style fascist dictatorship, which he keeps talking about doing, and he tried to do when he ordered out the 82nd Airborne. You see these guys showing up at rallies now like they did over in Omak, toting their AR-15s and stuff like that, and they all think they're a hard ass, but I want to tell you the 82nd Airborne would make pretty short work of all those idiots. If they stand aside and don't back the idiocracy, democracy may very well survive, although it's going to be a rough couple of months.
So basically, to summarize, you're saying that voting would be a crucial factor in the upcoming way forward?
Well, it's certainly our most obvious and best step, but continuing to organize both for offense and for defense against any sort of possibilities of a governmental collapse, I think, is also wise.
Well put. Well put. Thanks, Mike. Can we continue this conversation?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.